Today, we're diving into a 1997 political thriller called The Coachman, and it is built on a fascinating, kind of terrifying premise. What if a single crime, buried for decades, could come back to decide the fate of an entire country? The author, Yevgeny Kucharkin, does this amazing thing where he weaves a fictional plot around very, very real historical figures, which makes the whole story feel that much more real. So let's really dig into that idea. Can a dark secret from way, way back in someone's past really resurface and not just define their future, but maybe even their destiny as a national leader? That's the question at the heart of this entire story.
All right, so our story kicks off in the late 1970s. This is the tail end of the Brezhnev era in the Soviet Union, and behind the scenes you've got this quiet, simmering power struggle brewing in the halls of the Kremlin, and one completely unexpected event is about to light the fuse on the whole thing.
I want you to just picture this. We meet a man named Petrov. He's an old man now. He survived the absolute horror of the gulags, and for decades, his only goal has been to just disappear, to be forgotten. And then one day, after all that time, knock knock, it's the all-powerful KGB at his door.
So you have to be asking, right? What in the world could they want from an old man whose only desire is just to be left in peace? Well, to figure that out, the novel does something really cool. It throws us way back in time. We're talking nearly half a century back to the 1930s to see where this whole secret was born.
And we're not just going back a few years, we're going all the way back to 1930, to this incredibly remote border post called Khorgos, right on the desolate frontier between what was then Soviet Kazakhstan and China.
Okay, so the year is 1930, and the scene is grim. I mean, truly awful. The whole region is in the grip of a terrible famine caused by forced collectivization, a period the author calls the Golashgyokan terror, which was a real thing. And it's against this tragic, horrific backdrop that the central crime of the story happens.
You have to get this picture in your head. People are just trying to escape starvation. These aren't spies, they're not enemies of the state, they are ordinary families in total desperation trying to get across the border to find food. And who's waiting for them? A bunch of young, totally inexperienced border guards.
This line from the book is just, it's everything. It captures the entire moral crisis of the moment. One of the guards looks at these starving people and he gets it. These aren't criminals, these are victims. But then, the order comes down from command, and it's brutal, unambiguous. Shoot them. Shoot the hungry, exhausted, unarmed people.
And right here, this is the turning point. This is the moment, the event, that's going to set off a chain reaction that stretches across decades. In this single moment, every single guard on that border has to make a choice.
So, faced with this inhuman order, the guards react in two completely different ways. Some of them, they just can't do it. They hesitate, they fire their rifles up into the air. But then there's this one young soldier. His nickname is Kucher, which means the Coachman. And for him, this isn't a tragedy. Oh no. For him, this is a career opportunity. He fires coldly.
But the crime doesn't stop there. See, a brave guard named Konovalov actually speaks up about it. At a party meeting, he calls the massacre exactly what it was, a crime. So what does Kucher do? He uses the most terrifying weapon of the era, a false denunciation. To cover his first crime, he commits a second, accusing Konovalov and his friend Petrov of counter-revolution. The consequences are swift and brutal. Konovalov is executed, and Petrov, our old man from the beginning of the story, is sent to the gulags. For Kucher, this is just the first bloody step on his path to power.
Okay, so let's jump back to the 1970s. Why did the KGB show up at old Petrov's door? Well, the answer, it turns out, is all about a huge political game being played in secret, right inside the walls of the Kremlin.
Petrov's memory, his knowledge of what really happened that day, has become a weapon. It's a piece of what they call compromat, basically compromising material used for blackmail. And the head of the KGB, a guy named Yuri Andropov, wants to use it as leverage against his main political rival. Andropov doesn't care about justice, he just needs a weapon.
And right here, Petrov, and we the readers along with him, finally learn the novel's biggest secret. Who is this ruthless border guard, this Kucher?
The answer is a total bombshell. The cold-blooded executioner from the 1930s is none other than Konstantin Chernenko, the powerful secretary of the Central Committee,
the second most powerful man in the entire Soviet Union. The past he tried so desperately to bury has finally caught up to him. Now we get to the absolute climax of the entire story. Andropov, the KGB chief, orchestrates this masterful, psychologically devastating checkmate. He arranges for Petrov to travel, and guess where? To the exact same Khorgos border post where it all began, almost half a century ago.
The irony is just staggering. Chernenko is returning to the scene of his crime, covered in medals, to celebrate a heroic legend that he himself made up. He's totally confident. He thinks all the witnesses are dead, all the archives have been wiped clean.
But then, at the height of the ceremony, as he's soaking in all the glory, his eyes scan the crowd, and they lock onto Petrov's face, a living witness, a ghost from the past who knows everything. It's not a physical fight, it's a silent, psychological duel. And Chernenko is completely trapped. He can't do anything. He has to keep smiling for the cameras, and he's forced to walk over and embrace the very man he once condemned to die. In that one silent moment, the author says, Petrov is victorious. His mere presence is more powerful than all of Chernenko's medals and all of his authority.
In that climax, it reveals the novel's powerful conclusion. And it's not just about these specific characters. It's about memory, it's about truth, and it's about the very nature of power itself.
What the book shows is how the personal crimes of powerful people can get buried and then actually become the foundation of an official, state-sponsored history. It's this story about how the past never really goes away. It's always there, continuing to shape and define the present.
And in the end, the novel leaves us with this huge, uncomfortable question. It really forces you to think about what happens when truth and power get locked into this kind of conflict. What happens when a nation's history is built on a lie?